Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. Panelists, if you could join us on stage, deeply appreciated. Panelists, segunda llamada. Testing, 1, 2. Testing, 1, 2. So, Ometeo Tlahuizpapalotl me. My name is Angel Tlahuiz. I use he, she, they pronouns. My people are Benza, people of the clouds. And I am the current executive director of BAAITS. And if you can join me, we are opening this conversation in this beautiful gathering with one of our community elders from the BAAITS community. Jean Hightower, if you wouldn't mind coming and helping us open up with prayer. And if folks could stand, surely appreciate it. Thank you so much. The East, I believe, that way, right? Mm-hmm. That way. Behind you.
What? I think it's that way too. I think it's this way too. Oh, which way is that? East. East. That way? Okay, she just showed. Oh, come on, cell phone. Good thing we have cell phones. Well, what I'm gonna do, obviously, we want to have good vibes and good communication, understanding tonight. My teacher, who was a Choctaw medicine man, who used to, in the very beginning when we started BAAITS, used to come to our meetings and pray with us. His name was Beaver. So I'm going to pray when he gave me my altar for a spirit calling song to bring in good spirits for the meeting. So I'm going to do that. But I had to find which way was east, so I'm going the right way. Hey, 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 dua. 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 I'm done. Hey.
Thank you so much, Sheen. So relatives, please continue to help yourself to food, to drink. When you're not eating, please do use your masks. We're just trying to make sure and keep everyone safe in all these gatherings. We do have a couple of guests before we start the panel. And I'm super excited because this is a amazing visionaries, trailblazers, folks that have been and are doing a lot of very beautiful things for and by community. But we also have some guests from the city who are here. Would you like to come up? Thank you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be part of this community, to be welcomed into your space, into this family, beautiful family. My name is Asri Walandari. I use she, her, or they, them pronouns. I am the Manager of Communications of the Office of Transgender Initiatives. And I'm here to present a certificate of honor on behalf of San Francisco's Mayor's Office, as well as the Office of Transgender Initiatives, to BAAITS, in honor of the 13th annual Two-Spirit Powwow. Yeah, I don't have much to say other than I'm just super amazed and in awe of everything that the organization stands for. And I hope that this certificate can be one of the many, 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 many more accolades, accomplishments, honors, recognitions, and love and celebration for years and years and years to come. So, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And another city office came to drop this other one off. It's from the county supervisors, the city and county of San Francisco, and it's a certificate of honor. And it's from the office of Mendelman, Supervisor Rafael Mendelman, District 8. And it's in honor of Bay Area American Two-Spirits and its 25-year anniversary. So thank you so much again for this as well. And so that being said, I have the great honor and privilege of having met everyone on this stage this past year and have been amazed and in awe of the passion and the love and the medicine that each and every one of you carry. So thank you. Thank you for accepting the invitation. Paulette hopefully is on their way with 2 Sims. But let me start with a brief introduction of some of our guests tonight. And I'll start with Auntie Stephen. Auntie Stephen Barrios, Pikuni Blackfeet Nation, pronounced he and him, co-founder and board chair of the Montana Two-Spirit Society. He has continued to educate and bring awareness about a culture that due to colonization was almost forgotten and eliminated. For over 20 years, he has worked to educate Native and non-Native communities about Two-Spirit culture and the impact of HIV infection on Native communities. Next to them is, I don't know if I can call you Auntie. Can I? Trudie. Trudie Jackson is an enrolled member of the Navajo Nation from Technos Post, Arizona. Currently, she resides in Phoenix, Arizona. She's a community advocate, organizer, and elder who shares her knowledge with the community who lived experiences as an American Indian trans woman of color, combating discrimination, sexism, racism, disability, racial profiling, and many stereotypes such as homelessness, survival sex work, substance abuse, violence, and emotional and physical abuse. And that powerhouse over there, if you could see my lips, be pointing over there. Monique Muffie Mousseaux, President of United Resilience. Their Lakota name is Kanapu Maiwi, Walks with Pipe Women. Monique, or Muffie Mousseaux, is a member of the Ogala Lakota Oyate. They are alcohol and drug-free and have been in a relationship for 18 years, married 8 years to beautiful wife, Felipa de Leon. They're an advocate, activist for child abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, homelessness, Native American rights, minority discrimination, IWM, Native American LGBTQ2S, promotes culture, education, equity, and involved in many, 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 many efforts. Help me welcome Monique. Muffie. And, hi, John. John R. Syllyboy. John is Lanu from Millbrook Mi'kmaq community of Nova Scotia. John is a co-founder and executive director of Wabanaki Two-Spirit Alliance, a Two-Spirit organization that advocates for Two-Spirit people in Atlantic Canada and nationally. John integrates Indigenous perspectives using or two-eyed seeing in curriculum development, research, and cultural studies, especially in areas of impact Two-Spirit, Indigenous youth, and well-being. John's doctoral studies are to explore gender, sexuality, and sex, using Illinois perspectives to explore cultural strategies to address mental health for Two-Spirit youth. Help me welcome John. And we have Alma Rosa, my comadrex, is the chief and staff for Naeva and New Mexico Native Vote, and is part of building Native power through strong community relations, supporting and uplifting staff, as well as creating access to systems that have historically left Native voices out. Alma Rosa Silva Bañuelos believes in strength and resiliency of the intersection of identity and in the journey of decolonizing and honoring their whole self as they bring forth their Two-Spirit identity as Mexica, Azteca, Chichimeca, Chicana. Help me welcome Alma Rosa. And did Paulette just walk into the room? Not yet. Soon to join us. But please help me welcome everyone on the panel with a round of applause. So, let's talk. And we're hoping to make this much more of a conversation rather than presentations. And so we're just gonna try to tackle 3 questions. If we get through the second one, we're gonna be good, because these are beautiful, amazing folks. But as nosy as she is, because she's nosy, how did you come about doing the work? What brought you to your role and also to the advocacy that you do in Two-Spirit and IndigeQueer communities? And whoever would like to start, there's 2 mics. Tell us about you.
Uh-oh, they shouldn't have gave her the mic. We just want to say thank you so much on behalf of United Resilience, me and my wife, Chante Washte Napechius Api, Chanupa Maniwi Manchapi, and my other better half is Taikihi Lawi here. Very beautiful. I can't believe she's stuck it out this long. 18 wonderful years. The burritos were awesome. Wow. Holy smokes, you weren't kidding, man. Those were good. You know, just like every single one of us up here, sitting here, and all of you out there, what started us 18 years ago, and it just built and built and built, and in 2019 we said, you know, I'm not gonna tolerate any of it anymore, and you know, pulled up my big girl panties on, and I dusted off my crown and shifted it on straight, because I don't appreciate this colonized environment that has forced so much violence, not only on myself and my wife and our, you know, her children and her grandchildren, our grandchildren. And it's very violent, very hateful, and I don't think I would be exactly where I would be if I stayed submissive and colonized and chasing that picket fence and barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. And that's what that, you know, religious Bible put on that boat in the early or mid 1400s. And they brought their diseases, their foul mouth, their drugs, their alcohol, all their addictions, their mental health. They brought it to our ancestors. Our bloodline had to suffer, and because of that, I just said that's it. You know, one day I just couldn't take it anymore, and it built up and it built up, and I didn't know what we were gonna do. I didn't know what I was gonna do, but I just put one foot in front of the other, and I trusted in our prayer of making a difference. And you know, we're not in this to have our name in flashing lights or have a gajillion dollars. You know, we're in this to try to take apart that Constitution that, you know, forced our relatives into such horrific violences. So I hope that answers that. But we just couldn't take it anymore, and we're not going to take it, and we're going to keep moving forward. And here's my wife.
Hello, I'm Felipa. I'm not her better half, but her wife. And like she said, 18 years ago, when we started dating, we got gay bashed off of our tribe from our own people. And we left. During that time, during that 18 years, we were listening to horrific stories. We were getting phone calls from our friends, from our old classmates, from our family members, telling us about their children, telling us about their brother, their sister, who committed suicide, who was raped, who was brutally violenced. Within those 18 years, we received a lot of hard and hurtful stories. And me and my wife, we would sit there and we would talk about them and we would cry. Because it hurt. It was painful to hear those. And in 2016, my niece committed suicide. I went home to find out that one of my family members told her that they already had a carpet muncher in the family and they didn't need another one, so she should go kill herself. And they were referring to me as the carpet muncher. You know, that really hurt. It hurt that my family did that to her. And if I knew that that was going on with her, I would have been there to protect her. We lived in North Dakota. She was in South Dakota. You know, that really hits home when it's a young person, when it's a youth, someone that even dead. I'm sorry. You know, me and my wife, we talked about it again. And she told me she's going to go back and see what she can do. And I was scared for her. I was scared for her when she decided to go. I was afraid that, you know, she may not come back. Because the way we were treated and, you know, what happened with my niece, I was scared for her. But I told her, okay, I'm going to be here. I support everything you do, whatever you do. Let's get this done. So she did, but I was calling her. Heck yeah, I was calling her like every 10 minutes. I would take a break from work. I got to go to the bathroom. You know, you have to rush to the bathroom, make a phone call. So I was doing that because I knew where she was going and I knew what was going to happen and I knew what was going on. So she did. She made it back and she found out what we could do. And here we are. We passed the hate crime protection laws within our own tribe, the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, and the marriage equality. Because we don't want any of that to happen to her or I, any of you, your children or your grandchildren, or any of my children or grandchildren. So we're doing this work for a reason. We're not just up here trying to, you know, talk about us. But part of that story is about us. So we have to share it with you too. But thank you. Thank you all for being here. Wopila.
I'm not sure if we can smudge in here, but at least it's probably important that some people can smudge out. Ning Deluisi Jonar, Weda Bexia, Wabanaki dan Delui de Magnian, Mamigo Miminin. Biggest in Giscook, I know all I Giscook. Well, that's your aim detail. I would that's all norm today, Mudio. I well did Molo, I make it Molo. I'm John R. from Millbrook and Eskasoni First Nation. And we call our territory Wabanaki, which is the land of dawn, the farthest east of Turtle Island. And I've been traveling since 3 in the morning so to get here and share our stories. Our stories are very similar, I'm sure, that we come from a lot of trauma or different types of stories of what we're trying to understand who we are in the context of language, culture, ceremony, dancing, drumming, celebrating who we are as an identity of Two-Spirit people. And we had similar stories in our communities where we had lost young people, usually in their 20s, not knowing who they were or how they were connected to our communities. And so after 1 year losing 4 out of 10 in one community, the best thing we could do is get together. And so back in 2010, we started the Wabanaki Two-Spirit Alliance as a a way of healing our hurts that we've been dealing with. But not only that, it's to change the narrative completely and start looking at how we can celebrate our identity through love, through dancing, through drumming, and being together. So we said that, and our elders and our knowledge carriers in our communities had told us, let's not go back and do what everybody else is doing, which is looking at our social determinants of health. People are looking at our chronic diseases. People are looking at our mental health. People are looking at our social ills and the things that we're being impacted by all of this racism, homophobia, transphobia, queerphobia that's out there. Our community said, and our elders said, let's celebrate why we live, how we love, and how we're going to move forward. And so we started moving towards building and rebuilding the Two-Spirit Alliance to make sure that we network with a bunch of resources. We didn't have anything as a community, but we had the most important resource, which are people, community knowledge, and the will to do something about it. So we got ourselves together in the first gathering. There were 50 people there, and they celebrated with their stories. And so they talked about coming out stories. They talked about stories of resiliency. They talked about stories of making sure that they were there and celebrating together. So that was the big thing. And so we said from there, and moving forward, we won't look at what's wrong with us. Let's look at what's right with us. And also make sure that we share that out there. So that was the big thing. And the mandate that we had as an alliance was to build a network of that knowledge and making sure that we move it forward. We collaborated with other organizations. We collaborated with sister organizations. We collaborated with a lot of the networking of the Atlantic-based and Wabanaki-based organizations. We were the only ones that were the Two-Spirit community of the area. The sister organizations they didn't use 2S at the beginning. They used LGBTQ and maybe 2 at the end. And they said, we'll invite you for a land acknowledgement. I was like, give me that mic. Land acknowledgements were more than land acknowledgements. And so we started a narrative of making sure that we were building our voice in the community, within the queer community as well. That was one of the big things, is build that voice within in our own queer community. Then we started progressing and telling people, you're in our land. You're guests in our territory. And so we changed the narrative for them to think that you have to come to us. We're not going to you. And so it changed the aspect of how that looks like when it comes to going out in the community. The other thing we started doing and lobbying very hard was putting 2S at the beginning of the acronym. And so it came from our organization that we went to Pride Canada, and we said, you have to take the lead on this and put 2S at the beginning. We've been here historically from the beginning. It should be at the beginning of the acronym. It's only right that you put that 2S at the beginning because of the whole concept of who we are as an identity should be celebrated first. And it was really hard for people to get it at the beginning. But in the Atlantic region, in Wabanaki, they started, and then we started collaborating across Canada and saying the same thing, put 2S LGBTQ at the beginning. And so it started to tumbleweed a little bit further and further until about a year and a half ago, there's a few colleagues of mine that are in the room here that collaborated with Two-Spirit organizations across Canada. We sat there and we told Canada, that's what you got to do. And that's what they did. They put 2S at the beginning. And so all of those organizations like EGAL Canada, like the other organizations that have used our voice in their own peer organizations as well, they started putting 2S at the beginning. That was a great effort. We have to do the same thing here, though. We have to do the same thing here in the southern part of Turtle Island and make sure that 2S is at the beginning. But you have to show that as well. You have to lead that. And you have to take that narrative and share it all over the place. So that's what we've been doing. It was small little things like this, but changing the tune so that we control the narrative. we got to stop letting other people take that wording out of our existence and out of our identity. It's up to us. And so that's what we've been trying to do in Wabanaki.
Well, good evening, everybody, and it's wonderful to be here, and I'm honored to be sitting up here with all these people that are following this road, reclaiming our history. It's so important that we do that. And my name is Stephen Barrios, and I'm from the Blackfeet Nation, and my Indian name is Nisim Nati Isuta, which translates into long time holy rain. And I got into the Two-Spirit movement back in the 90s, and I was living in Washington State, and I'm from the reservation, but I was living over there. And I was watching all of my friends, this was during the AIDS epidemic, and watching a lot of my friends that had passed away, and it was so horrific. And you knew once you seen them with AIDS, there was no cure, and you just had to sit and watch your friends die, and many of them died in my arms. And so it was really something for me. So when I went back to Montana, and I got invited to an HIV meeting down in Billings, Montana, and we had somebody that talked about HIV, and then we had somebody that talked about two-spirit relationships, which I had never heard done in the state of Montana. And the person that brought this was David Herrera. And he had brought John Hawk Cocaine from Oklahoma to do this presentation. And so that year they were gonna have a gathering. They had already had one prior, and I'd never made it to that one. So I was able to go to the second gathering. And after the gathering, it was just like everything was opened for me. I mean, I felt that I had found a place that I needed to be and that I was part of, that was part of my culture. And how this got started at the Montana Two-Spirit Society was through HIV monies from the state and the Pride Foundation. And they helped us do our first gathering. And since it was being done with HIV money, federal monies, we were only allowed to have men at our gatherings, at the first gatherings. And I told David, well, the second gathering I had went to, they asked for people to be on the planning committee for the next year. And so, of course, I raised my hand because I really felt I was passionate about this, and I'd been on it ever since. So, and it's just been a wonderful journey for me. So anyway, I told David, you know, as Native people, we have balance in our life. And I said, we don't have balance at these gatherings. I said, we don't have our Two-Spirit sisters here. We need to bring them in to balance us out. And so this is what we did. And I remember our first gatherings, we didn't really have drummers or anybody, and we had to use car lights and tape players or whatever. But, you know, we made it work. And, you know, as Native people, we're really resilient. We can take things and make something out of them. And so this is what we did. And over the years, our gatherings have grown and grown, and we've had to move from venue to venue. And I do have to give a shout out to the Tulsa Two-Spirit Gathering and the Denver Two-Spirit Gathering. They were our mentors, and they helped us along the way. And so this is what we want to do as Two-Spirit Society, is if anybody needs our help, that we are able to help give advice or anything that we can to make sure that they succeed. A lot of people would like to see us go under all of our societies, but I don't think that's going to happen. As strong Two-Spirit people, we're very powerful, and we have a message to give. And so this is just, you know, it just gives me that passion and that spirit to move on. Sometimes we feel like we want to give up after all these years and stuff, but then when you look at how people really need this, and that's one thing that I really have to say about David Herrera. He's seen a need for something for our native people in the state of Montana, which nobody else had been doing. And so from that, this Montana Two-Spirit Society grew. And we've had so many wonderful representatives as Mr. and Miss Montana Two-Spirit Society that go out there. And we just want to know, people to know who we are as a people, and we have to have a voice. We can't sit in the background and not speak up. And once we do that, we're being pushed back down, like colonization. And I come from a family of full gospel ministers. My brothers were full gospel ministers. And so I know how it is for a lot of us that were raised in churches and stuff, and to totally turn around and accept who we are as Native people and take that out of our way. My brother would be up there behind the pulpit preaching that I was going to go to hell because of the person I was. And I told my mother I cannot attend a church that is condemning me to hell when they don't really even know their own history. And a lot of them don't talk to the elders, and they don't learn the history of our Two-Spirit people, how powerful and well-respected we were. But these are the things that I've learned over the many years as a Two-Spirit person, and I don't use that term lightly. It carries a lot of weight with it. It carries a lot of responsibility. And when you use that term, it means you're going to be given back to your people. You're going to take care of your elders. You're going to help your youth. You're going to help guide our other people, our younger people, into that right path of being a Two-Spirit person, and how to share that knowledge in a good way and not in a bad way, and not hurt people. And with that, I will pass this on. And thank you.
This is my sister. Welcome, sister.
Hamatakiapi. First of all, I'd like to apologize for being late. I was still on Trudie 6 time, so my apologies. But Hamatakiapi, Mija Dakota Shehe Achon Ia Kawi Makiapi, Makbieska Makiapi, Mija Winkte Chante Washte. I'm a Dakota Cree. I'm from Treaty 4 in what they call Canada. Lies in Saskatchewan. My First Nation is Muscopeding First Nation. I live and reside in Treaty 6. My GST name, or my government name, would be Paulette Poitras. My preferred name's Polly. But I'm really grateful to be here today. I'm really thankful for my partner and my wife who's sitting in the crowd. I don't want to draw attention to them, but they're here. There's always an introvert and extrovert. I'm the extrovert. It took a lot for them to come. But I'm really grateful, and I looked at the first question, and my mind was just going, thinking about what brings us to this work. And for myself, I was called here. I was called to these spaces. I was supported by my family. And I think of these stories of trauma. It's not like they don't exist, but I was really grateful that even though I had a very hetero and homophobic grandfather, that he held space for me in ceremony, that he encouraged me to take chindi, maku, and go and tobacco people and ask them. Ask the Winkte community, the Winkte Oyate, go talk to them. They have something to tell you. So I would go around, and he was kind of a deadly old guy. He'd go around and visit all his old drinking friends. And he would gather fish, and he would throw a net. He wasn't supposed to. Real telling a deadly story. He's gone now. But he'd throw a net and he'd catch a bunch of fish, and then he'd take all that fish and he'd go around and he'd feed the community. And we'd go feed the people. And we'd go into these homes of all of our people and all of our relatives all across in that area. And he'd always give me tobacco, and he'd say, go sit with them. And we'd sit with the Winkte community, we'd sit with my own people. And I'd ask them about who they are. And they would tell me these stories, and I would just gather this information, or I'd go to ceremony with them. And a lot of the ceremonies had these binaries, and they would always be like, women over here, men over here, and there'd always be someone there just trying to shoo me away, and he'd say, stop. They sit right here. This is where they belong. And they would never push me out. And I'd always tell my musham, like my grandfather, my unka, how come every time that we're late for ceremony, we're always on time? That's when it would start. And he'd always say, because they needed you. They needed you to show up. He said there was always 5 beings that would show up to a ceremony. There's the contraries, the backward people, and then there was the male and the female. And then they had the skeptic, the person that didn't believe. And he said, then they had the wink days. So when they had these ceremonies, they'd always call up my grandfather and he'd say, yeah, I'll pick her up. And he'd say, Wana, kiktawo, get up now. And I'd get ready and I'd go with them. And I did that for years as a kid, travel around with my grandfather, and we'd be in those ceremonies and someone wouldn't know who I was. And he'd say, she's different. This was his word for calling me gay to everybody, you know? She's different. They have something different. And he held space for me in those really tough, scary places, because just like here in United States, they were affected by residential schools and boarding schools. And that form of colonization was heavily influenced to our people. And our people were brought harm there. And in those spaces, they always thought that those spaces is where our people came from. It's because that happened. That's why we're here. And then finally, I went to a powwow actually down in Poplar, Montana. I tried it out. I was with a guy at that time. It was just a phase. And I went to this powwow, and I came across this Wink Day man. He's passed now. Some of you may know him. His name's Lonnie Bear. He's from Poplar, Montana. He was a traditional dancer. And I seen him, and I was just smiling. And he's like, come to my house after. I'll feed you. Nephew, bring her. Okay. He's like, holy. And he had said, my auntie wants you to come. And he was teasing. Eh? And I said, okay, good. So I come into that home. You go into the home, and as soon as you walk into that door, if you grew up traditional and you know what taniga smells like, you walk in and that's tripe. It's the guts of a buffalo. And I walk in and boom, that taniga hit me. I was like, ooh, I'm gonna eat good. Real greedy. So I walk in and they come to the table. So I come to the table and everything was there. Big bowl of corn soup with the nigga in there. They had some mint tea and bannock. You know, they had some berry soup sitting there. And I was just really grateful. And I remember looking at them and just smiling, because I didn't know that then. I know it now. They were honoring me in a good way. They brought out all the stops. And we ate, we prayed, and then we ate. And we were eating, and then real greedy, eating lots. Finished a bowl. You want some more? Yeah, got up, helped myself. Now I'm not shy, I'm just eating. You know, drinking my chiaka tea. I was just finishing, and got up and I cleared the table, and I got up and I did dishes. Cleaned up. And you're just smiling at me. Sit down, we'll have some tea. So we're still having tea. Waits for my boyfriend to stand up and leave and go to the bathroom. He goes, he looks at me. What are you doing with my nephew? Because when we are our own people, when we know who we are, we can see each other. You know what it is when you see a little winkte running around. You're like, oh, that one's different, huh? Like, we know. So this was the interrogation, like, what are you doing with my nephew? And I said, I don't know, I'm trying it out. Just real honest. And he's like, oh. And I was just smiling, and I reached in my jacket, and I pulled out some tobacco. Because I was always told, you come and you visit people, you bring something. So I pulled out that tobacco, put it on the table, and pushed it forward. And I said, tell me about the Winkte Oyate. What do you know? Okay. She said, long ago, back in the day, I was young and I asked my grandmother that, my kushi bear, how come I'm different? She said, I'll tell you a story about where you come from. I'll put this down. And she said, long ago, back when the animals were large and we were just pitiful human beings, those animals can talk. They had that ability to make themselves big and make themselves small. And the buffalo was big as a house. They said, and long ago, that buffalo was real skinny. Oh, real oosh buffalo. Had this baggy skin. And they would always be gathering for ceremonies and harvesting themselves, offering themselves to the human beings, to their siblings. And they would offer themselves. But it took the buffalo a long time to get there. Oh, Tatanka was dragging his skin. Take a long time to get there. And it would get dusty. By the time they would get there, the ceremony, and they try to offer themselves, nobody would take what they were offering. So the Tatanka got sad. And he would have to go home and slump home, dragging his skin behind him. Finally, one day, he cried out to Crater's son, Tashina Tanka! Oh, Tashina Tanka come down in this light, looking at. I don't mean to complain, but I always come to these ceremonies, I get there late, dragging my skin, and it's dusty, and nobody wants me when I get here. Try to offer myself, nobody wants me. I'm asking you for help. Tashina Tanka. Give me a minute. I'll call you when it's ready. I'll help you. Ah, there goes Tatanka dragging his skin. Slumps away. Tashina Tanka starts looking around. What can I make him out of? Reaches down the earth on Chimaka, starts working that. A little while later, those wakias come and that rain falls. Goes in there, starts kneading it. And that rainbow came after. Oh, all these bright colors took them, scooped them into that. Needs eyes looking around. Oh, reaches up to the cosmos. Grabs a star, puts it in there. Grabs another one. They can see far. Looks at it. Just glowing. It's ready. Cries out to Tatanka. Tatanka! Oh, Tatanka comes, slumping, but excited. Comes, gets there, lifts up the rope, pushes that, and starts working it around that hump. Dad, the tanka got chapa, got real fat. Just smiling. He's feeling good now. What is it? He's kind of trying to look around. He can move around. He noticed that his skin isn't dragging anymore. What is it? What do you call it? Well, it's the in-between the flesh and that hide. And when they scrape it, they can make a drum. They can sing their songs. When they render it down, they can paint. And they can tell stories. They can tell the stories on your hide. Document what's going on. You have that water because you're fluid. You have that earth because you're grounded. It can see far as the cosmos. They're able to see. And those colors, they can see all those colors. What do you call it? Winkte. And that was the story that Lonnie Bear told me. And it wasn't until years later I come out, find out who I am. All these different ceremonies I've been through, I didn't know I was coming out to my family. Because I go to a ceremony and my mother was pregnant with me with twins. She lost one. When I was born in that sack. They talk about that, how one was gone. Go to a ceremony, get depressed. They said, we have to sever that twin from them. I've never felt grief in my life. That was the first time I really felt grief, that second spirit. And I remember going to see my grandfather and telling him, they said I was two-spirit. And I didn't understand. He's like, I remember him just sitting there, he was a very particular man, his foot just tapping. I may not be here until when you understand. But when you do, you help your people. Start with the children. Start with the life givers. Start working with the men. And then you work with those wink days. Sure enough, that's how my life was. I was called into all of those positions in my life. I worked with children. I worked with women. I worked with men. And now I'm working with the Wink Day community. And I'm called to these spaces. And I don't think that I'm better than anybody else. In fact, I'm right with everybody there. We're all equal. And I always say, and I've said this before, anytime the Wink Day gather, a deadly storm always comes. Because that energy, it's too much in those spaces, but we clean up everything. We're related to the Wakias. They're there to correct everything. The Wakias, that water, it clears everything, it cleans it. We're related because that buffalo, when it runs and it's snorting and a bunch of them are running together, they make that thunder beneath their feet. And they create change everywhere they go. That's our relatives. So that tells me, when I heard that story, that we've been here since time immemorial. We were part of creation. They had a plan and a purpose with us. We were right with that buffalo. We're the thing that protects the heart. That hump protects the heart. We protect love because we understand it the best. Take what you want from that story. You want to tell that story, come and tobacco me. Because me, I tobaccoed for that story. And that's that offering. And I always tell everybody, name. If you can name 5 people that were there that witnessed that story, that when you heard it, that's how we were able to do referencing back then. You can reference 5 people, and they have to witness you tobaccoing. Then you earn it, you can take it. Because those stories, they don't belong to me. They belong to our community, because we know we've been here since time immemorial. We know we've been here. We always had a purpose. We're called to every space that we're in, and we bring that power with us, that strength of our ancestors. We're like that buffalo, snorting, running right through the storm. Because buffaloes, they don't run away from it. Only cattle do that. Real white people. Washichus, they go the other way. They're always in the storm. But us, we're part of that buffalo nation. We run right through it. At the end, the rainbow is there. Makes sense? Oh, padamaya.
Dear relatives, there are some more chairs in the front. For those of you who are standing, please feel free to come up front. There are some chairs. If you have a chair next to you, please raise your hand, please. There's all the chairs. Thank you so much. Trudie.
Yat a she yat Trudie Jackson in Shiat, which in Shlom, but anybody chain, Nakai, and Nasha Chase, Ganso Yat Ashanala, 8 Ayat and San Shla. Hi everyone, I'm Trudie Jackson. I just introduced myself over with my 4 clans. First and foremost, I identify as the Ne. That's who I am. And secondly, I introduce myself over with my clans. And it's an honor to sit up here, and I was listening to each and every one and learning of their work. And it made me think about when I was getting involved, when I saw the need in the community, and someone that comes from the community. And I think the part that was very frustrating to me over in this movement was individuals that would tokenize our community. Individuals that would get money over to provide services to our community, but not hire individuals that are from our community, but instead choose individuals that may have a college education, a college degree. So with that said, I went down that route. I wanted to see what it was like to be educated. And my work is from my own personal lived experiences. That's what I bring to the table. When I was in college, I used to challenge a lot of my professors about bringing scholarship into the table, about authors that write about survival sex work and have never done that type of work. But they gather stories from our community to write about us, to get published, and to get these grants. But they don't hire us because of our criminal background. So therefore, that was one thing that I saw in the academy. I think the part that really woke me up was living in the city, we crave to connect with who we are because we're so involved in the city of trying to survive, trying to find a job, everything else involved. And just looking at how our community is overlooked and where oftentimes, from my own experience, is I was just used as a number to fulfill program services and to make funders happy that they served trans women of color, especially as American Indian. So with that said, my activism really started when I founded Miss Indian Transgender Arizona pageant in Arizona. And it was my first exposure in public health. And I'm very thankful to our first MC, Earthquake, who is in the audience. And to see that happening in our community where there were talented individuals who knew their culture, that knew how to speak their language, and they were very happy to showcase that, to show their talent. One of the things I learned from that experience was I had non-natives that wanted to be a judge. And I was very firm that you have to be native. You have to identify with the community or an ally. That was, and I'll never forget a very well-known individual that does the pageant scene in Phoenix told me, "You are going to fail." Told me that straight to my face. But that gave me more power over to prove them wrong. And that's where my work started, because I saw that need in the community. And to reach rural tribal community members that identified with the community, coming to the city and to be who they are and how they identified was something that was very empowering. So that really helped me to get more involved. Earlier, one of the panels had mentioned putting the Two-Spirit in front of the LGBTQ acronym. When I was in college and being a part of the Rainbow Coalition, we always used the LGBTQ acronym. And as I got more involved and coming to learn more about the Two-Spirit community and meeting individuals who have paved the way, I advocated at Arizona State University to put the Two-Spirit in front of the LGBTQ acronym. And that really opened my eyes about how my voice can make a change in an institution. But then I also, right now, am looking at passing on that knowledge to emerging trans youth. And one of the things I always get is, I'm a felon, I'm a sex worker, I have substance abuse. I'm homeless. And I tell them, I was once there before, and I know how it feels. But if I can do it, any individual can do it. That's why I tell them. So those are some of the things that I share with individuals. And therefore, I tell them, like, we all have our own personal lived experience. That's something that you cannot learn out of a college textbook. Thank you.
Ometeo, hablando primeramente con el permiso de todos los ánimas presentes, cada antepasado que está presente, todas las ánimas de este hogar, de esta madre tierra, de esta tierra, del mar, del cielo y de todos los animalitos. I'm speaking with the permission of all of your ancestors, all of the guides, all of the spirits of this land, of the ocean, of the sky, of the earth, and all of our four-legged, winged, and all of our animals, our insects. As I was introduced earlier, my name is Alma Rosa Silva Bañuelos. I'm Mexica, Azteca, Chichimeca. I always knew I was queer. I always knew I was a curandera. I never put them together. And it took me many, many years in my life to get to that place of understanding who I really am. That I am medicine, and that I'm decolonial. And I'm decolonizing my own tradición, my own tradition. In the Mexica Azteca tradition, the colonizers forced us to hide our tradition in the Catholic religion. So many of our saints, a lot of our songs, a lot of our steps in the church, how they use frankincense, that's because we use copal. So the church stole many things from the Mexica Aztecas, and we were never allowed in that church. Not that we wanted to be in there. One of the first Mexica Aztecas that were indígena de Mexico, that was identified and recognized as an indigenous person, is San Miguel, who La Virgen de Guadalupe appeared to and dropped all of the roses on his manta. So that was the first time Mexica Aztecas danced in front of a church. We didn't go inside, we danced in front to honor our relative. When we do our danza, and you'll see our Mexica relatives doing danza at the Powwow, many of us were raised within calpulis that specific medicines were only for men and specific medicines were only for women. Our drum, el huehue, was only for men. The samador, our what we carry our fire in, were only for women. So in my calpuli, I remember fighting and standing up to our jefas that would say to our two-spirit people, gender nonconforming at that time, before I even had the term two-spirit, that they couldn't play the drum, that they couldn't carry the samador. And because of that deep, deep colonial binary within our tradition, many of us had to leave. So in leaving to find a place for myself, we would gather as queer Mexica Aztecas to do danza, to do ceremony together. In 2013, I had the opportunity to go to New York, Long Island, the International Two-Spirit Gathering. Does anybody remember that one? I recall calling and asking, so I'm queer, I don't know what Two-Spirit is it okay if I attend? And the organizers told me, you are so welcome. This is a place for you. Still a little hesitant, I went. I got myself to New York, right by the Sacred Fire, and I knew I was home. The moment I arrived, I knew I belonged. I didn't have to shift anything about myself. I knew I was home. And I would be remiss to not mention our elder, Omi Sade, Heart of the Hawk, that was at that gathering, that also brought a buffalo hide for us to build our own drums. So at that gathering, we all built our own buffalo hide drums. She also brought turtle shells, and we all were gifted with turtle shells, and we were able to decorate them in our ways. So these are medicine pieces I still carry today. And to speed up, in 2016, that piece of Aztec gold that we have seen in Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Little Aztec gold, that dropped in the ocean, in the cosmos. It was thrown up in the stars. I felt a call. There was a call in 2016 where Two-Spirit people needed to go protect our water. Not just for this generation, for generations to come, because we are the dreams of our ancestors. We are the answered prayers of our ancestors. So when that Aztec gold hit the cosmos, I felt the call. And I didn't know who or when or how, but I knew that Two-Spirit relatives needed to be at Standing Rock. And then there was a call for a Two-Spirit grand entry. And so Two-Spirit relatives from all over Turtle Island and beyond, in different continents, all came. And as a founding member, and we have other founders in the audience as well, that are founders of the Standing Rock Two-Spirit Nation, we built that camp together. Beverly Little Thunder was our elder at the first Two-Spirit Council that built the Two-Spirit Nation at Standing Rock. There were many of us that built that camp and held that sacred fire and held it fiercely. Early in the morning, you would go up to the sacred fire, and that's where the morning prayers were. And then we would carry our water, our tobacco, our songs to the river, the Cannonball River, and we would do our prayers. But that water ceremony itself was still colonized. That water ceremony called all of the men to come pray at the water. That ceremony called all the women to come down and pray at the water. And I was standing there, and I looked around, and it was all the Two-Spirit people that hadn't been called to the water to give our prayers. So I showed up to the next water ceremony council meeting where the elder women were running that, and I went and I spoke for us as Two-Spirit people. And I said, every water ceremony must have a Two-Spirit person. And after a lot of teaching and dialogue, there was an understanding. And the next time we did the water ceremony, the men were called down. The women were called down. Those that were presenting feminine came down. Those that were presenting masculine came down. Then we called those that are neither came down. At that point, nobody was left standing. And after that, the water ceremony at Standing Rock always had Two-Spirit people. And from the Two-Spirit Nation, we ensured that we had a Two-Spirit relative at those council meetings every single day and at every water ceremony to ensure Two-Spirit people weren't forgotten. That was one of the moments I really realized that we as Two-Spirit people are medicine. One of the grandmothers, Lakota grandmothers, I was in her truck, she's driving us, around the camp to an action. And she said, I have a memory of my grandmother talking about Winkte and said, you never upset the Winkte because they changed the weather. So when you said that, I remembered the grandma at Standing Rock. So once many of us had to go home and return to our lives after Standing Rock, I knew that there was still something left undone. And it was before that, right, Trudie? Before Standing Rock, when Trudie came to New Mexico, I was so excited. And I sat Trudie down, we went and had coffee, and I said, Trudie, we need to start a Southwest Two-Spirit Society. And we need to hold space for all of the Southwest region, not just New Mexico, Colorado, Arizona, Utah, and you know, Southern California slips in sometimes too. So we accept all of our Southwest Two-Spirit relatives. And so Trudie and I are co-founders of the Southwest Two-Spirit Society. And after Standing Rock, that's when we knew that in Albuquerque, New Mexico, we host the Gathering of Nations. There have been Two-Spirit people in that gathering since it's begun. But Two-Spirit people have never been honored in that space. And it was in 2018 that we called the first Two-Spirit grand entry at the Gathering of Nations. And that was another piece of Aztec gold. And we had another call of our relatives that came to do that Two-Spirit grand entry. But when we all gathered, we came together first, and we had our elders teach us. And when we built a Two-Spirit eagle staff, and we called eagle feathers from all over Turtle Island and beyond. So our Two-Spirit relatives brought eagle feathers from Canada, from Mexico, all over Turtle Island, and we built that eagle staff together. That eagle staff still leads us in to this day, 7 years later, at the Gathering of Nations. That Two-Spirit grand entry is a warrior's path, a Two-Spirit warrior's path. We aren't, in a sense, welcome to take our place as Two-Spirit people. As Two-Spirit warriors and medicine people, we take our place in the sacred circle. We complete the sacred circle. I've had elders say, we've been waiting for you all. If I had known that our elders were waiting for us this entire time, maybe we would have stepped in sooner. But we are here now. And we still take our space, and we complete the sacred circle every year.
So that was just the first question. Please continue these beautiful conversations. There's so many amazing individuals in the space tonight and throughout the weekend. Please, let's see each other. You know, let's see our own reflection in one another in such beauty. Briefly, this path was forged through my journey in sobriety. And I share that because that alcohol and drug addiction has had such a deep impact in my personal life. And I had already come out, but it wasn't until I began the healing work that I could actually show up in this identity as Two-Spirit. And so I am grateful and honored to have crossed paths with each and every one of you, and a lot of you out in the audience that have such deep knowledge and deep teachings. Because we have 2 more questions. And time is a social construct. But we want to make sure that we honor the work that is being done in community. We call this panel a movement because, in my eyes, that's what it is. You know, and fortunately, I've been part of other movements, and this one is so vibrant, so alive. Let's jump to the third question, because that's where the meaty thing is. That's the meat and potatoes of tonight. Let's talk about, where do we go from here? What do you envision us going as a people? as a community, as kin. And who would like to start? Yeah.
I just had to stand up for a little bit. I just want to say hello to my second wife out there in the crowd. Hey there. You know who you are. Uniting Resilience is looking forward to continuing this compassion. We call it wa'ushila in our Lakota language. And tekihila, love. You know, I am with a half Lakota, half Mexican female, bisexual, and she's Indian name is Tekihilawi. She is loved woman. I don't know how all of us have come together and come about in relationships, whether we're single or, you know, numerous wives, numerous husbands, numerous divorces, you know, snags. But I am very grateful to be in this 18-year union with the love of my life. And I put every ounce and every energy, every cell to get through those traumas, to get through those horrific violences. You know, it in every way, shape, and form, everybody up here on the stage and all of you sitting out there, you know, and I honor Trudie by reaching out and trying, you know, and getting her education, but, you know, those degrees are only a colonial construct. And experience means a lot as well, just as much, and sometimes even more. You know, and what draws Uniting Resilience to a whole different, you know, a whole different part, because we're not up here trying to reinvent the wheel. We give honor and praise to all of our, you know, IndigeQueer, Native Two-Spirit, LGBTQ that paved the path. Marlon Fitzgo, you know, Claudia Hadid, you know, Trudie, Bev, Sade, Clyde Hall, the GIA, what's his name? Randy. You know, I give honor and respect to everyone, and there's a lot more of you out there that I know, you know, paved the path and opened that door and shine that light a little bit brighter. And we really appreciate that. And, you know, I myself, I'm hoping that these generations coming behind me can do better than what I'm doing right now. Because I really don't want our grandchildren or those kids that ain't even born yet to experience any of the things that me and my wife had to experience up to our 18 years together. That's real. And we've had to, you know, really look into our own selves and heal and look at that mirror and say, you know what? We're either going to be in this relationship or we're not. And it's not easy because we can't go and find a lesbian or two-spirit counselor. We can't go anywhere. Not if, you know, unless we're white. We change our color of our skin and then, yeah, there's a lot of white LGBTQ out there. Don't forget that. We're still battling that racism. On top of trying to be acknowledged as Indigenous, Native, Two-Spirit, IndigeQueer. You know, don't forget that. Be very proud of your skin color, because my grandfather, when I was 10 years old, he said, Takoja. Don't ever forget. The Black Hills are not for sale. Don't ever forget, Takoja. Don't ever try to go for those green dollar bills, those big bills that these colonial white men and priests all try to get, in that gold, those soldiers getting into our land up there to get the gold out. Don't worry about those things. You're here to worry about Mother Earth, what you walk on, and to make sure our people are cared for. Because that's who we were as people. We did not bring over resentment, jealousy, hatred. We didn't bring that over here. We didn't live with that here with all of our animals and our sky. We didn't have that here until those boats arrived. So never forget who you are and your skin color. And those Bibles, they didn't grow out of the ground, and they're not what we are. Those religious words don't have anything to do with our upbringing or who you are as a person. So don't ever forget that, Takoja. Your grandma made it through the boarding school, so you're here. Rah! I know every single one of you are products from that boarding school. So don't ever forget who you are and the color of your skin, and be proud. You know, me and my wife, she's dark skinned in her family, and she was an outcast and made fun of. You know, I myself and had my own little traumas. I was put in a boarding school, and I wore my headbands and moccasins. And I'm very proud of this lady wearing her moccasins, because I was bashed by my own skin color people at that school. Look at that little savage Indian. Holy crap, every single one of you, you're sitting up here looking at a savage, a heathen. That's what I was called by my own people, my own children, same age, making fun of me because I loved the way I dressed. I loved growing up indigenous. I still do. You know, my wife makes me pretty up when we come to cities. You know? So this is gonna come right off when we get back to the motel, man. It's hard for me to be in this. A lot of you know I wear headbands. I do. And I want you to always be proud. Every one of us here, we love you and we uplift you. And no matter what, gossip is what took out our people. Hatred is what they taught generations before us. Resentment is what they taught in the boarding schools. Jealousy, that's not us, hey? So don't do that. Let's not do that to one another. Let's be proud of our differences with each other. And let's embrace one another every time we see each other. Even though there's COVID, let's put our masks on, but let's embrace each other and be proud. And next year, let's have this even more packed. Let's have a Coliseum in the next 2 years. You know, let's get Taylor Swift. You know, the Kansas City Chiefs, Mahomes. I had to say it. I'm a Chief. But I love you guys with all my heart, and I want to uplift you, and don't ever be afraid to talk to me. I have been called difficult because I'm saying and doing what a female or a native must not do. That's why I'm being called difficult. That's why people don't like me, because I'm not. We just had this conversation today. You know, Felipa, I'm this one sheep standing over here trying to figure out why all these other sheep are going and jumping off the cliff. You know, my mom used to tell me this when I was competing in rodeo. You know, are you going to be just like those other guys? Because, geez, Mom, I don't want to wear a cowboy hat. You told me I don't need to jump off the cliff like everybody else. And she said, you can't use that against me. But I didn't want to be like everybody else with the damn cowboy hat on, you know? I didn't consider myself a cowgirl. I was an indigenous native, you know, competing, riding a horse. So don't be like all those sheep jumping off the cliff and throwing gossip and hatred and jealousy and resentment. Don't be that. Be that one over here where me and my wife, I'm dragging my wife reluctantly, the only sheep over here. With all of these guys, we're up here trying to find solutions to why all of them are racing towards that edge and jumping off. We're trying to stop that herd mentality. We gotta be who we are. Get solid, be Mother Earth, addiction-free, alcohol and drug-free, for real. It works. You'll get your energy. You'll get your magic and what that Constitution is so afraid of, us having and guarding our people. We are the balance. We are going to make our people unite and be strong. So believe in that. Believe in yourself. How? Mitakuye oyasi.
Wow, I don't know how I can go after that. Everything she said, thank you. Okay, so for our organization, Uniting Resilience, we named it Uniting Resilience is because we want everybody to unite and come together, because we're all resilient from the boarding school, from our grandparents, from our ancestors, what they went through. And we're all here and we're all fighting with to be here with each other. So we're resilient and we want to unite everybody. So both of us decided to name our organization Uniting Resilience. So what we have planned on doing within our organization is we're going to have our second annual Two-Spirit Powwow. So save the date. It is going to be on June 29th, and I want to see every one of you there. So I have a photogenic memory, so I know who you all look like. I know what you all look like, so I want to see you all there. And then we have other events that are going to be coming up. Those are still to be announced.
We are working with I don't like them, but we are working with them, the Human Rights Commissions out of Washington, D.C. They are coming to Rapid City to address racial violence, all LGBTQ Native Two-Spirit violences, the Native pipeline to the prison. That's a real deal. So these guys came in and we had some feds that were following us, and they ended up going back and getting this with HRC to come down and start addressing why isn't Rapid City having any hate crimes when, a transgender gets killed and they don't even call them a transgender, they call it a good kill. And they're Native. They didn't even call them Native, they just said a trespasser, and it was a good kill. This happened last year, right after Montana Two-Spirit. When we got home, man, our phone was blowing up. So I want you to know, we put out, a lot of messages. We sat at a lot of milky white tables to get these guys to come and pay attention to the violences that are happening. And as on behalf of Uniting Resilience, I am an ex-law enforcement, federal law enforcement, 9 years with the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation. I went back. Prior to that, I was undercover for 3. Don't hold that against me. FTP, MF. And we know what that means. And I'm not going to say it. I don't know if there's anybody 18 or lower in here, but You know, let's get real on all of these issues, and I'm holding the law enforcement to everything that they have damaged within our people, not just racially, but homophobically, mental health-wise, all of it. So we are addressing some big issues, and we don't want to take up any more time. I'm very sorry, but please come to our second annual Two-Spirit. We're going to try to get Mark Cassidy there. We're going to try to get Roger Kuhn, the beautiful Roger Kuhn, to perform for a benefit for Uniting Resilience. And we don't operate out of any tribe. We are all tribes. And we are in Rapid City, South Dakota, and I'm trying to get her to move to New Mexico. It's too cold up there. But yeah, so we are all tribes, and we are international, so Pilamaya, sorry about that.
Real quick, she says FTP, which you guys think a different way, but it's actually for the people.
Lost your punchline, huh? Hard to follow this couple, huh? For us in the organization, we're going down to the core of our legal identity as well when it comes to looking at treaty and our treaty connections as Two-Spirit people. The co-founder is Duma Young, who's also the board chair of the organization. He's also my mentor. And we've been working and collaborating together in making sure that people understand that the existence of Two-Spirit people, or whatever the word may be in our languages or cultures, is the presence and the root of who we are, is from that treaty connection to our land, environment, science, and our knowledge. And so when we're looking at that, I work with Glamux's Albert Marshall, who's he's helping me with my doctoral stuff, and he said to me, we're not cultivating this for the next generation. He puts it in numbers and he says, we're cultivating it, harvesting it for the next 840 years, what we're doing today. So that's important that we keep that in mind. In that treaty process, we've seen in Canada an increase in the problems with people and government taking away the right from people who are younger to self-identify and use their pronouns however they want to. So New Brunswick, Saskatchewan, and Alberta are the three provinces that we're dealing with. We, on the other hand, in New Brunswick, we've taken the government to court, our organization. We submitted the affidavit against the Premier Higgs in New Brunswick to say that you have absolutely no right to tell our communities how we self-identify, use our language and our culture and our identity as Two-Spirit people. You can do that for other people, but not us. And so we're the expert witnesses that we're going to move forward with this affidavit, and we'll win in New Brunswick. Simple as that. They can't and they will not have authority on First Nations or Indigenous people anywhere in Canada when it comes to making people identify however they should, and they can't. So we are saying to people, use the pronoun that we use in Mi'kmaq is negum. Negum means that person. It's for female and male, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't, it's ungendered. And Negamok is all of us. So we use that, and we're teaching our young children and youth to say negum, because they shouldn't have to use gendered pronouns if they don't have to. Let's use our languages. So that's what we're doing. And we're also trying to establish with those treaty processes to understand how we're going to implement them in legal structures to help our Two-Spirit people, but also for everybody. So if Two-Spirit people, if we can get it together in a framework that's correct for us, then it spills over to everybody else, basically. And so that's what we're trying to do. And it's a long process. It's not easy. Our elders are on board. Our leadership is on board. And in fact, not 2 months ago, the chiefs of Nova Scotia had made a declaration against government in making sure that, you know, they can't infringe on our rights as people to identify however we want to identify as. So that means that we can identify as Two-Spirit people anytime and anywhere, and they're defending our rights out of our communities as well. So they're going after provinces to make sure that they also respect those. So the point of the conversation is this: we understand this. We can only move forward, but never straight.
What we're doing in our organization in Montana is we are also in that same situation. We have a Gian Forte, who is a Republican governor, and they're trying to pass a law right now in our state that there is only two genders, male and female. And to be a female, you have to produce eggs. To be a male, you have to produce sperm. And so these are the things our transgender and Two-Spirit people are up against in our state. And so we as a Montana Two-Spirit Society got on board with the legal defense there and are part of a lawsuit against the state of Montana for this law. And one of the reasons, and when I was interviewed, I said, not only does this affect the Two-Spirit people in the state of Montana, it affects our tribes as a whole. You're taking away part of the culture. And this is our culture we were raised with, and we're a nation within a nation, a sovereign nation, and you should not be able to come and define who we are, just like you were saying. And I think that's wonderful, you know, that we're able to do that. And I think we are the only native Two-Spirit society in Montana that's on this lawsuit. But another one of the things I think people forget about, and we, as we move on in our lives, as you know, the Montana Two-Spirit Society's been around for some time now, and we as founders are kind of getting up there in age a little bit. And so we're always looking for towards our youth, people that are committed and have that same passion as we do. Because one day, you know, we hate to see it, but somebody else has got to take over our organization. And we would like to see people that come in and have that same passion and commitment as we do. Because this movement is so important to us. And like I've always said too, we were taken out of that sacred circle through a lot of circumstances, through colonization and such, and churches and stuff. And until we're brought back into that sacred circle, that circle is not going to be complete. And today, I see that actually happening, where our tribes are bringing us back into our rightful place where we belong. And so it's a fight that we have fought a long time. It's not over by no means, but we still have to keep going on. And so as I love it when I look out into this audience and see so many youth, Two-Spirit youth. That's our future to keep us going. And as long as they attend our gatherings and learn all that culture and stuff, and we're able to pass it on, I think it's very, very important. So I just want to thank all you youth that are here and all the elders that share your knowledge with them. Thank you.
I'm just gonna do a time check because we only have the space till 8. Yes. Yeah, that is correct. It's 7:55, and so for the remaining 3 panelists, if you could be quick and concise. My comadrex here is guiding me. It's not me. This is my comadrex. And let's continue these conversations. These conversations are so important, and we need more of them, in our different gatherings, in our different, communities. And this is the beauty that exists when we travel and when we make the effort to connect in very concrete and real ways. And so thank you. If I don't get to thank you at the end, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for what you represent. Thank you for existing.
All right. You said be quick. Good luck. I think about, just quickly, what I think about 175 years. That's 7 generations. What can we do with the time that we have? I always remind people of that. In the time that you're here, how can you deeply affect and ensure and sustain that Indigenous Two-Spirit queer people are still here and that they're safe? In everything that you do, you need to be intentional. You need to be intentional in the spaces that you're in. You need to ensure that the safety is there, not just for our children, but for 175 years. That's our responsibility. And part of that responsibility, we're tied to the lands, we're tied to the language. Keep them alive. We're tied to the waters. Keep it clean. Those are our responsibilities as Indigenous people. As queer people, we're intended to do that with love, compassion, truth, and understanding. That we walk in a good way, that we see it with both eyes open. That's what I've always been taught. That's how I speak to people. With us, up in the north, we're fighting with the government, big surprise. But we're fighting with them, and we're demanding that they fund us. Because if it wasn't for us and the traumas that they inflicted within our communities, they wouldn't have what they have. And we're gonna claim it back. I'm gonna call that back into us. And what I always, what my grandfather always told me, "Wanakiktawo." My grandmother used to say, "Waneska." They would always tell me to get up. Those spirits are spirits of the Winkte Nation, the Winkte Oyate. It's time to get up. We have no more time to sleep. We have to wake up. All of our gifts at once. If we can move collectively at once forward in the same direction to ensure that in 175 years, they know that we fought for them, then we've done our job. My grandfather said this, everybody put up your hand. This one would be your left, the right. I'm dyslexic. Put up this hand, put over your left part and go like this and say, Chante, Washte, which means good heart. Anything with a good heart, good things will come. Makashkao Yasin.
3 words pop in my mind is funding, inclusive, and community. I say that because we have these national LGBT organizations out there that want us at the table. I had an experience last year going to a conference where we were the only Native presenters. And the only thing that they wanted to offer us was a registration over to be waived. But a fierce advocate reminded them, we're the only Native presenters, so therefore, if you want us there, you pay our entire way, which they did. And I'm very happy to say that advocacy like that is what is needed. All of us up here should not have to operate on a shoestring budget. And therefore, we are a part of the community, and therefore, we should be treated like everyone else, not just being tokenized. Thank you.
We love you, Trudie.
Mateo. So the future of our movement, the one thing the few thoughts I have are to support all the Two-Spirit gatherings that you can. If you can show up, show up. If you can show up to a Two-Spirit powwow, show up. Support our powwows, our Two-Spirit powwows. If you have an elder in your community, honor your elder. The Southwest Two-Spirit Society, every year at the Gathering of Nations, on the Two-Spirit Grand Entry weekend, we honor our Two-Spirit elders. So shout out to Claudia. Auntie Stephen also received a Two-Spirit Elder Lifetime Achievement Award. We have many elders that we honor every year with the Lifetime Achievement Award because our elders haven't gotten that honor as of yet. And so we want to make sure we're uplifting our elders because it took many years for me to find a Two-Spirit elder. And I'll tell you, in the Mexica Azteca tradition, I don't have a Two-Spirit Mexica elder that I can go to. I have to go to other traditions to find that Two-Spirit elder. I'm getting up there. Don't let this streak fool you. In our tradition, once you hit 52, you are an elder. But for those of us that our lifespans are much shorter, we are elders a little younger. So honor yourself, honor the youth in your community. And I do want to just two last thoughts. Ceremony, ceremony, ceremony. We are medicine. Don't forget who you are. If you don't know what your medicine is, figure it out. Because you have it. It's in here. It's in here. It's in here. You can feel it. We're electric. Find your medicine. Be in ceremony. Protect the waters. Protect sacred sites. And don't forget our ancestors. Our ancestors are who stomped this ground for us to walk on this path. So we continue to stomp this ground in our dances, whatever that dance is for you, so that those young folks can follow up behind us. Because it's how many years? 127? 175. We got a lot of work to do to continue to do this. So honor yourself, honor your elders, honor your youth, do your ceremony. And Auntie Stephen, I do want to uplift Montana Two-Spirit Society and David Herrera that have called for an international Two-Spirit Council as a leadership council. We deserve our own leadership council with our own representation as Two-Spirit relatives. And this is a seed that was planted by the Montana Two-Spirit Society, so I really want to honor where that comes from, and I'm lifting that up so it's spoken in front of all of us as Two-Spirit relatives, and that David's thought and vision come to fruition and to life. So with that, Auntie Stephen, thank you so much, and thank you all as well. Mateo.
Can I just tell you that it has been such an honor and a privilege to represent BAAITS in this way. And although I've only been with the organization for 1 year, some of my siblings know this, but I had to be in a lot of prayer before even applying for this position, and even more prayer before accepting it, because it's a huge responsibility, and I had to seek prayer to ensure that I was ready. And so thank you for your kindness, thank you for your love, thank you for your acceptance and embrace, and the future is beautiful. You're beautiful, and have a wonderful time if you continue tonight, and we'll see you at tomorrow's events. Tomorrow we have Land Lakes and the Brush Harbor Girls gonna be performing here in this very stage, and followed we're gonna have the hand drum contest hosted by the BAAITS drum. So come and continue to be in fellowship with one another. Thank you so much. Good night.
And just a quick thing for the North. Two Spirits in Motion Society, where there are national organizations in Canada. We'd like to invite everybody to our first annual Two Spirit Powwow in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, June 21st, 2024.
We're doing photos.